Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Revolution. A big shout out to my producer today, Sierra. How are you doing?
I am so good. How are you?
I am doing well. So I want to remind our listeners that this is the new revolution, part of the Transformation Network. You can now watch my show live or on demand at ttrnetwork.com, and make sure to subscribe for updates so you never miss a new episode. And don't forget, you can join me live. Just click on the player and hit the ask button to send your comments and questions during the show. So with that, let's kick off today's episode titled Pivot with Purpose. So during today's episode, my guest and I, Sherree Bowen, and I will discuss how listeners can lift themselves up, remember that bad decisions only shape our destiny when we don't learn from them, and keep repeating them. Don't judge yesterday's decisions with today's wisdom. The momentum of shame can pull you into a more bottomless pit of disappointment, and we don't want to get stuck. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about my guest. She is an award-winning international speaker and author, and she holds a Ph.D. in education with a concentration in ministry leadership. She is also a Christian music artist who lives by one motto: God first, no matter the room. Her breakout book, When Life Gets Messy, Make It Your Ministry, with TBN Trilogy Christian Publishing, turns real-life chaos into kingdom purpose. We had the opportunity to team up with Kevin Harrington, original Shark from Shark Tank, Shark Tank, and Nim Stant of International Impact Book Awards, and other global thought leaders for the Impact Leaders book. My guest lights up women's conferences, leadership events, and her teaching coaching masterminds with fun, faith-packed talks that leave rooms laughing, learning, and leaning into Jesus. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be with you today. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I love it because there's something that you like to say that is very fitting for today's episode. And that's God doesn't condemn you for your past choices. He redeems you. He created us already knowing we make crazy decisions.
Yeah, he created us knowing that we're going to do dumb stuff. No matter, right out of the gate, he already knew. So he gave us a purpose and a passion to be able to change our direction when we feel like that we're messing up, when we feel like we're going the wrong way. So he's the one that gave us that direction. So I always love to say that. I love to say, no matter how we walk or we fall or whatever it may be that you're doing in your life is, a lot of us do that even in, women's, not only in women's ministry, Erica, but, just purposely in our everyday, like corporate lives and the things that we do, trying to make decisions, what are we going to do? Is this job the right one? Is that job the right one for me? And so that purpose comes no matter what your walk is or who you're walking with. I always say God first, no matter the room. So that way I take him wherever I go, because it's so important to me that to genuinely pivot for our purpose, we have to be intentional. And so that's where that comes from. I'm always very intentional no matter what I do. And so I really feel like that we're in charge of our own destiny. It's just up to us to take the reins for it,
Absolutely. And that's why we say pivot with purpose. And
That's right.
during this first segment, we're going to talk about when life gets messy, make it your mystery. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, when life got messy for me, I had to make it my ministry. And it got super messy. I mean, Erica, I was on the road singing, and I was a Christian artist, and I traveled and sang and it was on stages all over. And I would walk out on stage and feel like in my own heart that I was sinning and serving. And you can't combine the two. You can't sin and you can't serve the Lord at the same time. So you have to get off the fence. And so I did that. For years, I was on stages and singing. And finally, I felt one night I was singing, and it was the crowd was very dark. And so when you're on stage, you can't see. But that night, there was like the first 3 or 4 rows I could actually see. And so I started singing, and um, I can't remember the song that I was singing, but everyone started to worship. And then I started to feel it, and I thought, uh-oh, I'm feeling my own words here, in which, it kind of, no matter what you do, whether it's ministry or, like I said, or a job or success or whatever, whether you're a physician in the hospital, you kind of get in the rhythm of what you do. You get in the point of, you lose your zeal, kind of sometimes. And I think that's kind of where I was at with that. And I started to feel that, and I thought, why why am I feeling what I'm singing, and why is the Lord working through me when I know I'm not doing the right thing? But that's just how he is, right? He shows up and he ministers even to, just like his disciples. They were his ragtag team, is what I like to call them. Like he chooses the broken. He chooses those who don't know anything, so he can teach you. And that's what he had to do with me. He had to break me. And I walked off stage that night feeling like, these people, um, and I want to say this right, because I don't want it to sound, like someone, like, oh, they loved me. It wasn't me, it was God's word. But I felt like they loved my message more than I loved myself. And that hit me so incredibly hard. And then it came to the point to where, I walked through it for years, and I finally decided I hit rock bottom. And my book talks about all of those rock bottom places that I ended up, with relationships, and maybe not physical abuse, but abuse comes in all different ways. And I knew better, and so then when we moved, and God blessed me with what I do have, and well, I'm sure we'll get into all that later, but I had to take care of my mom and dad. And I started writing my book while I was caregiving for my mom. And you know how grief is, Erica. I mean, it takes you to a whole place that you never thought that you would ever experience. And I think what helped me was my journaling through that process and writing it down and figuring it out. And that's where when life gets messy, make it your ministry came from, because it was from a place of where I had failed and made bad choices, but it led me to roads I totally didn't expect. Used to being on stage, used to having a mic, used to singing and all the things. And I would teach on the side and speak on the side, but my main focus was, I'm a gospel artist, and that's what I do. And pivot with purpose, God has done that in the now, because now it's flipped. Now I speak in women's conferences, and going to a conference tomorrow that's sold out. That is of God. It's a blessing that people want tickets, and we can't get tickets. And is that a blessing? Absolutely it is. But when I look at that from a personal perspective, I think to myself, man, how God changed my way. God, how he pivoted where I was at before, being a Christian artist, to being an international speaker, traveling everywhere. And then sprinkling in, the vocal part of it. And that right there gave me the ambition to write my book, When Life Gets Messy, Make It Your Ministry. And when I partnered with TBN, it was the biggest probably turning point for me in my life, because I took it by the reins, and started, this is what I need to do. And, you know, I'm sure that you've felt this too, Erica, with loss and grief and walking through that process. I went to, which I often do. I go to my mom and dad's grave and I tell them all the things. I give them my schedule because that's my that's my breathing time. That's my peace, that I get from that. And so when all of this came to fruition and God blessed me with some new avenues that I never thought I would have, I went there and I sat and I prayed and I asked God to help me, with this new walk, this new pivot that He is having me to enter. And then I said to my mom and dad, it was the funniest thing. I just quietly looked at the cemetery there in the grave, and I said, "Mom, Dad, I pick up the mantle. I got it from here." And so I know they're looking over me and they guide me in the directions, from the mess to the ministry.
And I love that because writing for me has been very, very
Oh, I'm sure.
therapeutic, right? It's been very healing. And
Yeah.
it's right. I mean, you get pivoted in a lot of different directions in
Mhm.
various aspects of your life, right? And at different stages. And we have to be
Yes.
willing to make that pivot.
Yep.
And I think, we're going to get into that probably
Yeah.
the next couple segments. So let's take a quick break. And when we come
Okay.
back, we're going to talk about being on the move for change. But
Yes.
before we go, tell folks how they can connect with you.
Sherree at SB Ministries. It's sb-ministries.com. Or they can contact 844-812-6936, or it's 844-81-BOWEN, BOWEN. And also my social networks are, you can find me at Sherree Bowen or on Facebook, and you can find me at Sherree Bowen 18 on Instagram and all other socials, all over social medias, LinkedIn and also YouTube.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You
Yes,
are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Sherree Bowen. Thank you for being on the show today.
thank you for having me.
So during our first segment, we discussed when life gets messy, make it your ministry. And during this segment, we're going to talk about being on the move for change. So what do you mean by that? I know we're talking about, pivoting, but
Mhm.
what does that mean to you when we say on the move for change?
I think that what you need to do is not get discouraged by where you're at, but you need to remember that your bad decisions become your destiny only when you repeat them. So, on the move for change, if you want something to change in your life and you want something to be more of what you're looking for, or whatever it is that you're trying to find, I really feel like that your decisions only come or only are your destiny when you don't do anything about them, when you just sit and you
Yeah.
kind of stay in that, area.
Well, when you fail to look at what happened and
Mhm.
then make those, right? Make
Right.
that pivot, make that change. Because if
Right.
you, what is it, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over
Over and
again and
over and over.
expecting
Yeah.
different results.
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
that is, if we don't, I always say, failure,
Uh-huh.
mistakes, they're not bad if we take the time to learn from them. We can use those as stepping stones to something further. And so when we are looking at how do we make that change and how do we make that move, what would your suggestion be to for folks that are looking to do that? Like, hey, I thought I was learning from my mistakes, but it looks like I am making the same mistake each time. How do I move? How do I move for that change? How do I pivot appropriately?
Well, I think that what you have to do is first you have to kind of hone into what it is that you keep doing. Because if you are repetitive in something that you're trying to change, it's never going to change. So, something isn't working. Let's just use finances for instance. What do we do if we have our bills coming in and we're working and we're investing and we're saving and we're going to places that we're blah 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 that we're not spending here and there? What do we do when our finances aren't um, where they need to be? We change. We figure it out because if something isn't working one way, the only way that we can fix that is to make a change. So make a decision to, this hasn't worked for the years that I've been trying to do it. This relationship hasn't worked for the years that I've been trying to do it. Um, Whatever it may be. Um, you have to take the reins in that situation and decide, if I just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, it's never going to change. We all are designed with our own path. I always like to say, God knew us before we were even born, before our parents even gave us our name. He knew our path. He knew our pathway. He had a designed plan for us. But we as humans, we have to kind of be close to the Lord and discern what he's trying to tell us in order to make those right decisions and right paths, because we don't know, only he does. So if we keep bucking up against something that we know is not the right thing or the not right way, then it's up to us to figure out, okay, Lord, nothing's working. Every single time I try to do this, I keep hitting a wall. Why? And so I had to come to the point in my life, Erica, where I had to say, I don't say why anymore. I don't use that word anymore. Why, Lord? Why am I walking through this? I am your child. I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to build this and that. I don't do that anymore. And I do that with I did that for years. And then I all of a sudden stopped and started realizing that what I needed to say was, what are you trying to teach me in this moment? That takes us from a point of poor, pitiful me to um, let me study, let me read, let me investigate, let me find. So, when we're trying to change where we're at, even as authors, and this, just as well as I do, being an international author speaker yourself, we have to not just say what we are, but we have to walk in who we are, right? So that takes change, that takes study, that takes us, and here's a changing, who we are, and if it's not working. I like to say this, that, I've often heard two people say to me, um, but I'm faithful, Sherree. Why is this happening to person A and person B is not experiencing those type of things? And I again always say we are all designed with our own purpose. And if we were all the same exact way, how boring would this world be if we all sang the same tune and we all walked and talked the same way, or even had the same thought and processing, how we live our lives. So I always say, just be encouraged when you're walking your path and someone turns left and you think in your mind, well, they should have turned right. Um, that's that is God's way of just kind of saying to you, this is your journey. That's their journey. So it doesn't have to be, we all are not going to walk on the same road, but we all have the same end vision of who we want to be, where we want to end up, and who we want to end up there with, right? So I always just say it's his intention for us to be our own person. It's his intention for us to need things to happen within our lives to show us. And I think a lot of times we fall down and we have to fall in order to pick up the mantle and say, okay, my strength is in you. And now I'm going to learn the faith that I need to carry on. Does this hurt? Absolutely, it does. Was that a gut punch that I didn't see coming? Of course it was. But in order to pivot and change and figure out that we need to be on the move for a change, if something isn't working, it has to start within us.
Yeah. I mean, the only constant is change, right? And
Yep,
change, I
absolutely.
mean, we say this, right? You have to be willing to change to get different results, but change is hard, and change
Right.
there's not trying to say it's not, but I think
Mhm.
that's when we
Yes,
say how bad do you want it, right?
right.
And how do we go about getting what you want
Yeah,
if it's not working the way you're doing,
right.
and really being authentic to yourself, and
That part.
finding that
Yes.
path, right, and
Mhm.
saying, yeah, you might have to change how you're doing something, you might have to change how you're looking at something, the perspective,
Yes.
but that key word there is change. If we
Yes.
want to move forward when something's
Uh-huh.
not working, we have
Yep.
to be willing to take a different step.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah,
totally agree. Yeah, if we don't make the move, we're just going to be stuck in the mud right where we're at with mud on our face and not figuring out how we can wash it clean because that's just the way it is. Life is, we've heard often, life's just so unfair. Why am I walking through this? But the revelation in all of that is to find the resolution,
yeah,
you know, and so that's what you have to do for change. You have to find a resolution that's going to work for you. And again, no matter what it is, you got to
yeah.
find how you're going to make your plan work for you. Um,
I think that listeners, if you happen to listen to this live right now, I would say tell us how you are going
yes,
about change. How do you get over that fear of change? Because I mean, again, change is
mhm,
scary. I
it
completely
is.
get it. It can be very scary because it's different.
Yeah.
But that's, we grow,
Hmm.
outside of that comfort zone. So tell
Yes.
us, engage with us. Let us know how you get over that fear of change.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about finding joy in the unexpected. But
Hmm.
before we go to that break, tell folks how they connect with you. And you have some events and different amazing things coming up.
Yeah.
Tell listeners about how they can learn more and what you have in the works.
Absolutely. Well, jump on my Facebook page. It's Sherree Bowen, and my other socials are Sherree Bowen 18. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, all the things. But you can reach me personally through my email, which is Sherree, SHERREE, at sb-ministries.com, for anything that you have that you would like me to come and be a part of. I would love that. Also, my business line is 844-812-6936. Again, 844-812-6936. Yes, I have a lot of things coming up. Again, I'm with Trilogy, TBN, Trilogy Christian Publishing, with Trinity Broadcasting Network. We just finished wrapping up a show in Dallas, Texas, that is now airing on TBN TV. It's called Stories of Purpose and Hope. You can go back and catch that episode of being in Dallas and with the host there, Belinda Lane. I also am leaving here in just a little bit for Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm going to be at East Maryville Baptist Church with their ladies ministry team, doing a festival of tables, which is a beautiful the way they set this up with fall and Christmas and all the things. And I'm getting to speak to a huge group of ladies, and the biggest thing that I love so much is I'm getting to go home for almost one of my last events, or the last of huge event for 2025. I have a new book coming out in 2026, called Don't Trip Over Your Toes. It's about having relationships God's way through marriage, dating, all that kind of thing. It's a women's small group study. So I'll be doing that small group study. And at the end of those, you can also book me to come in, and we'll do a mastermind class after you have completed your workbook. So I've got that coming, and I do have some music things coming up, but to be continued.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Sherree Bowen. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely. So good to be here.
So during the last segments, we've discussed when life gets messy, make it your ministry, and being on the move for change. And during this segment, we're going to discuss finding joy in the unexpected. And I know many of us go through the unexpected, and I know I sure the heck have for the past 2.5 years.
Yes.
So why is it so important? I mean, I know the answer to this, but why is it so important to find joy in the unexpected, or even when you're going through the unexpected?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're going through something that's unexpected and you can't at least try to tap into some sort of happiness or joy or a sweet memory that would take you to a more positive, you're just going to be stuck in a deep deprived pit that you can't get out of. So we have to, just like we had talked about in the previous segment, you know, on the move for change, we have to change where we came from to find joy in where we're going. So I'm sure that there's some that in your audience today that, you know, has experienced and tried to navigate unexpected things just as you and I have. I mean, I know your story, you know mine. It's kind of a crazy ride that we have been on. And if we didn't stop and say, you know what, I can't stay here. And I have a kind of a thing that I always say, my husband and I, when we walk through something, I'm like, give it 10 minutes and then get out. Give it 10, get out, and just because, we're Christians and we walk through certain things in our life, that doesn't exclude us from bad things happening. So give it 10, pray about it, and then get out of it. And we had something happen just a few weeks ago that was so incredibly large that I said to my husband, can we give this one 30 minutes? Can we give this one a 30 and then get out? He said, nope, we're going to pray about it, give it 10, and then we're going to keep it moving. So I'm sure that there is, in your audience today, there's people that's having to deal with the unexpected. And a lot of that is just called life, everyday life. But it's not fun when we have to experience the unexpected things that come our way. And so I've walked it, you've walked it, and I just brought up my husband. Let me tell you about something that happened to him. And if again, I always say that, we strive to climb to the mountaintop to find our joy, right? We want to get to the top and be on top and have the celebratory fun time. This is a great time. It took us from going here to there, and now we can celebrate. Well, in order to get to the mountaintop, that's the reason that I think very often that while we're climbing the mountain, there's tons of rocks that we have to climb over. But we couldn't get to the top, right, if we didn't have to climb those rocks. But those rocks are there for our benefit, even though they hurt sometimes, and even though they fail us sometimes, and they pop up when we don't expect them. We can find the joy in that, even though there's something that may hurt us every now and then, or make us fall, or make us sad, or make us feel like that we need to change. We use those rocks to get us to where we're going to. So we keep climbing, we keep going to the top, and we keep getting that. And so they're there for our purpose. I think if it wasn't for the rocks to help us climb to the mountain, it would just be harder to make it that way. Well, my husband, he was a professional athlete. And let me just kind of say he played all through high school. He, um, football. And so he played through high school and then he went and played semi-pro and all the things. Well, he was training for the NFL combines. So he went into the NFL combine with, I mean, this is all he ever had done. So he had played and played and he was ready. There was nothing that he didn't not feel like that he could execute on the day of the jumps and the runs and all the things that they do at the combine. So he gets there and they start doing the training and he, of course, he's nailing it, everything he's running it, um he the sprints. I wish I could remember all the things, but I am not an I'm not an NFL player by any means or stretch of the imagination. But whatever that they do, he was doing a really good job. So anyway, he signs, gets all the things that he needs to be on this team, which was the Raiders. So he signs that, he gets all the things, he's got his jersey, he's got his, combine thing that he's, sweated in and all the things, and which I still have to this day. So we get to, they load up the roster or however they do that. He's on it. It came to one final jump or one final run. And I tell you, Erica, he missed it by like a tenth of a second. A tenth of a second. So what that did, it took him from his journey of everything that he had trained for, blood, sweat, and tears for, his entire life. Well, I should say, and the aha behind this is he didn't even start playing till like his freshman year. So he was super good at the sport and he was so excited. He trained diligently and every single day after work and all the things. But that goes to show us that no matter how much we train for something, that no matter how ready that we think we are for the next thing or the thing that we feel like we're ready for, sometimes that's not how it happens. Sometimes life happens and it steps up and it says, you know what, that's not the path that's for you. And so flipping that over just a little bit. Same with me. I was on stage singing, doing all the things, won Female Vocalist of the Year in gospel music. And then all of a sudden that quick, I think the Lord sat me down. But the beauty behind what I had always done, I did my first revival type little concert when I was 5 years old with a big old piece of pink bubble gum in my mouth. And, so that's all I'd ever known. And sports and athletics is all JB had ever known. But it come to the place where we were both dealt something that we did not see coming. And we had to suddenly find the joy in the disappointment. But here's the thing that I want your viewers to understand this is finding joy in that disappointment would have put me on a different journey, would have put my husband in a different journey, and our paths would have never crossed. We would have never been in the position that we are today, the ministry that we are today. Do we still walk through things that life deals us? Sure we do. Everybody does. But if you don't find the joy to get out of it, give it 10 and keep it moving, then what happens is you get stuck in a rut and you can't grow if you're stagnant.
Yeah. I like to say, feel the feelings, just don't unpack and stay there. right? So the same thing.
Yes,
It's
yes,
I mean, we have to acknowledge the feelings, right? Whether
yeah,
it's grief, it's loss, it's
yeah,
disappointment, anger, frustration, whatever it is.
hmm,
Acknowledge those feelings, feel
right,
those feelings. Just don't unpack and stay there. Like you,
right,
and
yeah,
if you carry that around with you everywhere you go,
yeah.
it's always going to be heavy. So
It
like you
starts
said,
to weigh on you.
yeah,
I mean, it starts to
give it
weigh
some
on you.
time. And it's hard to let go of that, right?
Yes,
Especially if you've gone through periods of time where it's been loss, 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 or
yeah,
disappointment and frustration at,
absolutely.
trying to build a company or trying to build a business, and
Yes,
you're trying everything, and you really truly believe that you're doing everything right,
yeah,
and it's like frustration because maybe it's not going as fast as you want, or
right,
frustrated because you're not making the sales that you want, and
hmm,
acknowledge those, right? But
right,
don't just live there, because
right.
you won't get to where you need to be, and
Yeah,
and
you're
that's so
exactly right.
important.
You're exactly right. Especially, and being a woman, and stepping out, even stepping onto stages, stepping into corporate positions, no matter what that looks like. Being a woman, it takes a little extra push, because we're not just a corporate person, or we're not just in this cubicle for one reason. We're in that cubicle because we have children at home, or we have little mouths to feed, or we have ambitions that we're looking forward, or we want to step up in the corporate world. We want to keep it moving. We want to grow in whatever the ambition it is that we've set in for us, in front of us. But yeah, so being a woman and trying to, climb with purpose too, is maybe even I would kind of tend to say, it's different than our men. Our men have that manly focus, and they're driven and all the things, but we have families that we're looking forward for out for. We're looking at all sorts of different, keeping our homes running. Yet we're still trying to grow ministry wise for me, corporate wise for maybe some of those that's in your audience today. Um, but we as women can take those reins, and we have such a drive, I think, and an ambition, and that nurturing self that's kind of planted within us, that I think kind of takes us to the next level if we lean into it. So I agree with you, Erica. We can't stay there, give it 10 and keep it moving, because we're designed for more.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. Well, we're going
Yeah.
to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to finish out the show with Finding the Warrior Within. This is
Mhm.
Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Sherree Bowen. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being on the show.
Oh, it has been so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So tell our listeners how they can connect with you, learn more about what you all have going on, and all your wonderful upcoming events.
Okay. You can connect with me on Facebook, Sherree Bowen, SherreeBowen. Sherree Bowen 18 on all other socials, and also TBN.TV. And also, I am with TBN Trilogy Christian Publishing. I have a new book that's coming out in 2026, and it is called Don't Trip Over Your Toes: Finding Relationships God's Way. And so that's going to be a workbook study, and it's for small groups. That's for churches, women's, ladies, small groups. And at the end of those, you can also book me to come in, and I will do a complete overview of what you've just studied, and do a mastermind class course for that day. Also, I have some music that's going to be coming up soon. Also, I'm leaving here in just a little bit for Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm going to be at East Maryville Baptist Church with the ladies ministry group for Festival of Tables. And so we're looking forward to that event. And we have another book that will be launching in the fall with Trinity Broadcasting Network, Trilogy Christian Publishing.
Thank you so much. So now during the last segments, we have discussed about when life gets messy, make it your ministry, being on the move for change, and finding joy in the unexpected. And during this last segment, we're going to discuss finding the warrior within. So we are all warriors, and we do have a warrior within. We all have that warrior spirit, especially when it's messy. It's there. Sometimes it takes a little harder for it to find when things are messy, because when life knocks you down, and let's just face it, life's going to knock us down in one way or the other.
Exactly.
It's harder to find those things, right? To either pivot or to find the joy or to find that warrior. So what do you tell folks when life is really messy and we're trying to make that pivot? How do we find that warrior?
Well, what I always say is when you have a fear of walking in, no matter what it is, a room, a purpose, a challenge, when you have the fear of walking in, don't forget who you're walking with. And I say that all the time because it's so true. That our obedience in who we are makes us the warriors that we are. Being a designed women, we have that driving factor anyway. We have that, I'm a warrior. I can get this done. I can finish this. And so when we are, our obedience glorifies God and not our comfort, or their comfort, or, it's being in a position to where you can find, no matter what you're walking in, you can find the warrior within. But you need to remember who you're walking in with. I think that's so very important to remember that, even when it's messy,
Well,
when
especially
you
when
walk
it's
in.
messy, right?
Yeah, for
Especially when
sure.
it's messy.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we get like side slapped with things that we didn't see coming. And when that happens, it really does cause us to sit up and pay more attention to where we're going. Well, what happened in that moment, or what happened that actually, why did I not see that? Why did I not see that coming? What am I not better prepared for what I should have been doing for me?
Well, and I'll say this. I mean, when my son passed, I was mad. I was
I'm
mad.
sure.
I was mad at God. And
Yes.
my brother-in-law is a deacon, and I said, I feel horrible, but I'm mad. I'm, quite
Yeah.
frankly, I'm pissed. He
Yeah.
had an opportunity over the past 18 months, prior to this time, to take me. And instead he takes
Yeah.
somebody more pure, more
Yeah.
giving, more selfless,
Mm-hmm.
more determined to make a difference
Right.
than taking me. And
Right.
I'm pissed.
Yeah.
And his response, and I was expecting something different. He goes, "Good. You should
Good.
be,
Yeah.
and you can be, and that's okay."
Yeah. Because he tells us that. He says, you can be angry. He says, you be angry and sin not. I mean, Jesus flipped over tables himself because he was mad. He was angry. So he says it's okay. And, in the times, speaking of, when your son passed, I can't imagine walking through that unexpected. Because that's something as a mom that is devastating. And I can understand how that you would be so furious in thinking, why my son and why not me? So being angry, but he is going to use you for a purpose. But I did the same exact thing. I've thought to myself, why did you take the ones that was my mentors? Why did you take the people that I needed the most?
Yeah.
And all that kept popping up in my mind was, that's my Elisha moment, where Elijah says to Elijah, Elijah went on in chariots of fire. And his people looked around him, all the prophets looked around him and said, Elijah, let me just run and find him. Let me go get him because I know he's your mentor. And he said, no, he's gone. And so he asked for, God, bring me a musician. I need a musician. And soon as he brought it, actually it says harpist, but I like to say musician. As soon as he brought that musician and he started to play and to get into a sense of worship, God put his hands on Elisha and he said, no, this is your turn. This is your time. And I've got my hands on you. It's time for you to pick up the mantle. I know it's not easy because Elijah was your mentor, but it's your time now to pick up the mantle and keep walking forward. And that's what, being a warrior is. That's what coming from change. That's what pivoting to purpose is. That's what, finding the warrior within. That's what it's all about, is picking up the mantle and discovering that even those that, carried us through, even the ones that we thought was are the main people in our lives that we loved so unconditionally. I felt like my mom and dad was my mentor and they're gone. And I don't know why, but I had to come to the realization to say, okay, this is my Elisha moment. God's got his hands on my shoulders and he's saying, look, mom and dad's gone. They were your mentors. Your audience may have people that's gone in their lives, or they may have walked through a divorce and they're in a new situation in their lives, trying to figure out how to be single. They're a new marriage, trying to figure out, how to make life happen. No matter what that you're facing in that particular moment, it's your time. God says you are a warrior. You're my warrior. And I have a plan for you and a purpose and a path, but it's your opportunity, and it's up to you to pick up the mantle and carry it forward. And just like I had said earlier, when I said, I've got it from here, I do. I'm a warrior and I can stand with no matter what comes my way, no matter how much spiritual warfare that I have to walk through. I know I'm a warrior because he said I was. And I can stand strong in that. I can stand tall in that and know that every single thing that I walk through from now to the end of my last day, I will be a warrior because I did decide to change. I did decide to accept where he would have me to be instead of accepting where Sherree thought I needed to be. So
thank you so much. I mean, I think that's a perfect ending note. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And I want to thank all of you warriors for being on and tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific right here on Transformation Talk Revolution. One last note, if you are hurting or need help, please know the world needs you and it is a better place with you in it. Don't let the hard days win. Reach out for assistance. Call, text, or chat the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 to reach a trained crisis counselor through Crisis Text Line. Both are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and are free. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing day. Know that you are loved, and I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you have missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.